Hi, this is Michelle Walker, and this is a bonus call from my Essentials of Visual Thinking live and online course. I cover the ways I clean up digital images of charts so they're high quality images for my clients to use post their event.
Well, welcome everyone to this bonus session. I'm going to be looking today at helping you clean up your images that you take after you've done a graphic capture or some kind of visual harvest. My name's Michelle Walker, for those that don't know me, Curious Minds Company, and I've been focused on visual thinking and visual facilitation in my business for 8-9 years now, and doing a lot of training in this area for the last 3 or 4 years. So just want to show you how at the end of an event you can take the images that you've taken of your charts and turn them into a really clean, crisp digital file for your clients. So let's get underway. I just want to tell you what tech I use when I'm working in this area. So I have a PC computer and I have an iPhone and an iPad. And they're my tools, if you like, for converting the analog paper charts into what I send to my client. So let's have a look at what I use for that setup. So the key elements I want to step us through, and it really is a bit of a process that I want to cover to make sure that you've got all the elements. The first is starting with the image and then looking at cropping and adjusting the lighting as being two of the most essential manipulations you'll do of your digital image. And then if needed, you can add a logo or a signature and or a border. And then it's saving the digital files as both high and low resolution and then exporting them with some kind of file sharing. And I'll talk about all of those in turn. So before I get underway, just to let you know the call's being recorded. So if you do jump on and ask questions, be really mindful that you don't share any details that you don't want broadcast. So let's start with the quality of the image. So before we're even talking about cleaning up an image, I want to talk about the actual image that you take. And there's 3 crucial elements to this. The first is lighting. So if you've got your chart in a really dark corner of the room, I suggest you actually take it outside and as much as possible get lots and lots of natural light on it. If you're in a room which is well lit, that's great. It just means that the quality of the image that you start with is going to be so much better, and you're going to have a whole lot less work to do when you're in the studio and working through trying to adjust lighting and etc. So that's crucial, is the lighting. The second one to think about is your marker quality and the color choices that you make. So this isn't about retrospectively changing color choices once you take your image. I'm actually talking about the fact that when you're doing your visual capture, you probably should already be using colors in your palette for all elements that are going to really project, and they are also going to photograph well. So the really deep colors like black and red and the dark blue, dark green, dark purples, that's all going to have a good level of contrast from your white paper. When you're getting down to really soft pastel yellows, that becomes much harder to manage in the studio afterwards and really hard to maintain the quality of that colour. It's just something to think about when you're doing your capture, if you know that the client's going to want digital images. And for me, that's every single time. I leave my client with the analog hard copies, like I leave them the actual charts, and I always send them digital copies later. And the third thing about the quality of the image is the camera that you use. Now, I used to take a digital SLR to jobs with me, and now I don't. I literally take my iPhone, and I've got an iPhone app, which I think is exceptional, and I've been using it for 4 years now, Camera Plus. That is for the iPhone. I believe there's an equivalent. I did some research a couple of days ago, and apparently Camera FB5 is the Camera Plus equivalent for Androids. So that's my suggestion, is if you have an Android, look at a camera type of app that will really boost the quality of what you are taking and what you can export from the start compared to the native phone camera that you've got. So I use Camera Plus, suggest looking at Camera FV5 as an alternative if you're on Android. And the second thing I want to jump into is cropping. So before you start adjusting lighting and trying to get the whites on your chart image back to white from grey or some other kind of shadow colour, and I use Adobe Photoshop Elements 10. Now this is an old piece of software I've had for a long time. If you haven't got it, it will cost you to buy something equivalent. So for those that don't have any kind of photo editing, pictorial editing type of software, my suggestion is look at GIMP. That's www.gimp.org. There are free to share software. It's really quite user-friendly, and I believe, and I've had other colleagues recommend GIMP. So have a look at that if you don't want to pay for any of the Adobe Photoshop suite. So I'm going to now do an example chart. So I'm just going to stop sharing this for 1 second while I pull up my Photoshop and share the screen again. Okay, so now we're looking at my Photoshop software, and all I've done is import a chart from an image that I took at an event that I was recording at last week. So this is just brand new, live to the job that I need to be doing, which is cleaning up these charts from Thursday and Friday last week. So what you're looking at is a photo that I took. Obviously the chart's taped on the wall, and the first thing we want to do is crop. So just here to the left of Adrian Holmes's name, this is the area that I want to take in as the first chart section. So first job I do is just try and get rid of as much of that wall and tape as I can. So I just go in using the cropping function within, it's called the rectangular marquee tool. It just allows you to select, and then I go into image and crop. Now I'll be saving this file. So the original with the other bit of Adrian's names and whatever, that'll come into another image, and I'll clean up that as a separate chart. So just looking at what I've got now, you can see I've got a bit of wall on the left hand side, and I've got a bit of the other chart on the right hand side. So I'm now going to clean those up, but first of all I'm going to start with, under Enhance, Adjust Lighting. Adjust Lighting, and I go to Levels. And I select the white pointer. And you can see that that's immediately pulled the majority of that image to white. And I'm just clicking on different parts of the chart so that you can see I've now reversed it from being grey or cream to the majority of it being white. And this really relies on having great contrast to the points that you've included on your chart. So I'll just click OK. Now I've still got this bit of the wall that I want to clean up, so I can go in and just give myself a bigger marker. And for some reason, I'm not sure why that's not working. So I can just colour in that bit of the wall to white. And I'm going to do the same on the right hand side to get rid of the bits of the chart that I want to exclude, and it can be on chart number 2. So if I really want to just make sure that what I'm doing is kind of on the money, I'll go in a little bit closer, like this one here. I just want to make sure that I get right up. And I'm just going to get rid of those extra marks. Okay, so when I zoom back out again, you'll see that it's now much cleaner than it was. So if you want to have a look at where we started with, it's got a lot cleaner compared to something like that, which is similar to the original of this one. So that's the cropping function, and it's also the lighting adjustment function, which is really two of the most crucial aspects to what you need to be able to do with a chart. So let me just unselect that. And this is day 2. And what I want to show you is this is another chart which, in order to be able to get really good quality images, I often take several photos of the chart in sequence. So this is the left-hand portion, this is the middle portion, and this is the right-hand portion of the one chart. So I will go in and select each of these and turn them by stitching them together into a large format. So let me just finish this one and then I'll go and do that, because I want to really make sure that depending on how you do approach this, that we will all have the same idea of a good quality. Okay, so I've more or less got rid of all that. So one thing I do is I often take the opportunity in the digital form to put a logo to make sure that the images are trackable. So I will come in, put another layer, and having just gone into this file here and selected it, I'll go back to my chart, and on a separate layer I'll then paste, and then I'll move that into place. So I might just want to make that small and pop it down near the left-hand corner. It doesn't really matter where it is as long as it's more or less visible. That means if someone comes along and sees this digital image, they'll actually know how they can get in touch with the person that did it if need be. And the other thing that I might choose to do is to put a border around the chart, because I often find, so I always teach in my classes, that a border around a chart actually lets people know that that's the limits of the information. Well, when I'm doing it live, I don't always go back and draw a pen border. I often leave it and then do it in post-production. So the way I do that is I put a separate layer into Photoshop, and above the base I then select the border and then go into edit, stroke selection, and I'll probably pick a colour from probably a grey, I think. Let's just see, 5 pixel width. So that gives you a border around, and I could make that a little stronger if I wanted to. Let me just have a quick look. Edit, stroke outline selection, just a little bit darker in the grey. And I might make that 8 pixels. Okay, so now you see I've done the border, but it's now jumping across everything but my signature, because my signature is sitting on a top layer. So while staying in that layer where I've got the border, I'll usually go back and then with my eraser just take out the crossover with my writing, just create a bit of room for the drawings. So then it looks quite finished. So that's one example where I've cropped, I've adjusted the lighting setting, I've then cleaned up the edges where there's been wall or other bits of writing that I don't want to include. I've dropped just the logo and my signature in there, and I've also put a border around this. So then I come to File, Save As. So I don't want to just save it because I actually want to keep the raw chart file as I took it as a photo from the event. So I'm going to just give this a name. And I'm going to save it first in Photoshop, and then I'm going to save as, and select JPEG. The other option other than JPEG that I would use is PNG. So I'll save that, and it'll ask me what quality. So I'll go for maximum everything for the first run, and that gives me 1.7 megabyte file, which is not huge, but it's also something that I wouldn't put, you know, it's getting better to be able to export file sizes of that size, but I might also go back and just do low res, JPEG, save, and this time I'll go for something more like a 5, like quite medium, so that keeps it under half a meg. And now I've got 2 versions of that chart. The other thing I can do, which you might like to do if you don't draw in the logo of the event, is in post-production. For example, this was the logo that the clients were using, and I could copy and paste that, and I could drop it into my client chart file over the top. I need to check what the quality of it is. May need a bit of touching up. So essentially you've got the capacity to replicate completely the graphics that your client uses if you want to change up what you hand drew in an event. Okay, so the next thing, I just want to pause for a second. I'm just going to stop sharing. I'm just going to ask everyone, are there any questions that you have? And I'm going to feel free to start your videos. I did unvideo you while we were going, just while we were doing that. Did anyone have any questions? Phil. Hi.
I had two. Where you, at the beginning where you created the light background, you said you used a white wand, is that correct?
Yes, it's actually an eyedropper, and it's the white selector.
Okay, and do you have to adjust the setting for that?
So it will give you straight white.
And it will just, you don't have to adjust the setting, it will just grab everything and do the white.
Exactly. So let me just show you again. Let's say we're on this chart. Can you see the screen share now?
Yes.
So I go, in this particular one, adjust lighting levels. Now I can adjust the lighting to get this chart paper white, or as close to white as I can, by doing 2 things. I can change where these level bars are for what's maximum, what's mid-grey and what's dark black, or I can grab this white wand, and wherever I put it, it puts that area, anything equivalent to that pixel, it makes that white. Now you can see the lighting was better top right, so there's still some areas down here that are a little greyed because there's a little bit of shadow. But I can go in there, and I just do this carefully, because if I click on that, it'll make the blacks in the writing a little bit less. So if you see what I've done there, when I click on the bottom left, it just makes that a little fainter. But you can come back and spruce up.
So
you can boost up the black if you want to.
Okay, and so when you did you have to click a shortcut to get the white wand, or is it automatically the cursor becomes the white wand once you've opened that
So if you're in Adobe Photoshop Elements 10,
yep.
this is what you get. You get the white wand, you get the grey, which is the exact 50% mid-grey, and you get the black.
Okay, that's, yep. And the other question I had was, you save it as a PSD file, a Photoshop file, and then I was thinking you'd go to PDF, but you said PNG. So is there a benefit to PNG for some reason, or?
Yeah, well, I export them as image files, so it's either JPEG or PNG. The PDF, I could save it as a PDF, but most people want to be able to insert these images into newsletters, into reports, into their websites, in which case a JPEG is much easier for them to handle.
Okay, yeah, because I was thinking PNG, I've always thought of that as like a web image file. So most people in my industry would share it as a JPEG, a TIFF, or a RAW file like a PSD or PDF. So I don't really use PNG. So I was just wondering if there was
and PNG, sometimes I find PNG just a little crisper if I know I'm going to go to web, but otherwise I use JPEG as a general rule. If I know the client specifically wants to use it on their website, then I will think about PNG.
Thank you.
Hi, Carla. You're muted, so you'll need to unmute yourself.
Hi, Michelle. Hi, Phil. Hi, Owen. I wanted to drop in at 10 o'clock, but I got a phone call, so I got late in. And my English is not so well. I'm from Holland. I think this is very interesting, the PNG, JPEG, and PDF question, because I recently send things in PNG format because I thought myself that PNG was somewhat clearer than JPEG. Is that true?
I think in some reproductions it is clearer. So if you're using it, like I think at some level, if you've got a good quality image, then JPEG and PNG is not a great loss either way. But I have found PNG, especially if I'm promoting, if I'm putting something on my website or I'm actually sending it to a client who I know is going to do that. So yes, I agree. PNG can be a lot crisper, or can be just a fraction crisper, and it's just enough to make a difference. And welcome, and don't worry about your English is beautiful, much better than my Dutch.
Okay, thank you very much. And nice to see you, Michelle.
Yes, isn't it lovely?
First time.
I do love this. Okay. I do love this format. So I'm not sure if you, like I covered just before you jumped on, that really the technology that you start with and the image that you get is so important, making the job that we're talking about in terms of cleanup a whole lot less of a pain. I have taken very bad images and it has caused me hours of work. Carla, question.
Yeah, can you tell me something about did you make the photographs with a camera or with your phone, and what kind of phone? Because I don't have an iPhone. And
do you have any kind of phone that takes an image?
Yeah, I have a Samsung, but an old one.
Yeah.
And
then let me just show you what I showed, what I was showing before, and that's Now, let me just double check. I don't think I'm sharing my screen, am I? Okay. So here's the things that I use. So I use an iPhone. That is part of my setup. I used to use a digital SLR and I don't bother anymore. I added Camera Plus is the app that I use, and it's really exceptionally good quality. I've done 3 months of travel and turned it into a travel book, and the quality of the photos was outstanding. So it's plenty good enough for me to do chart photos and then be able to take them back to the studio and get a really good quality. If you don't have an iPhone, I believe, I did some research a couple of days ago, that the Camera FV5 app is the equivalent of the Camera Plus. It does a good job. It gives you all that quality to add and lift the camera on your phone to a good standard, which is really what you need. So there, you know, that's the beginning of the job that you do in the studio afterwards, is actually good lighting, good marker choice in terms of colors as a recorder, and then a good camera. But if you've got no other choice, then take a digital SLR and do the job that way.
Okay, thank you. Oh.
I stopped sharing. Did you
okay,
need it?
Thank you. I got it, and it's enough. Thank you very much.
Great, Carla. Thank you. Phil?
Can you hear me? Yeah. I don't know whether you're going on to something else after this or this is it, but I just stop me if I'm preempting something. But the other question I had was color profiles. So if you're in Photoshop or a graphics program, traditionally it was CMYK for print and RGB for web. I know a lot of guys, again, today who in the industry I work in, who do graphics for papers and things, they tend to use RGB. What are your thoughts? Do you just use RGB that they can use it on the web and for print? Or because if you use CMYK, it will help your blacks a lot stronger in images than RGB, if you know what I mean.
Yep. I am the simplest of simple creatures, and it's whatever happens to be the easiest. And I did a graphic digitally on my iPad that my client printed out at 2.5 meters by 2.5 meters, and she was able to get enough information of the RGB that was fine, and we made sure that I actually set up the file in the first place to be a really large, high quality. So we sort of did that front end, but I don't get into the RGB CMYK debate at all. I would tap someone who's in the print and graphic design on the shoulder and just double check. Or if I'm getting it printed, sometimes they can tell me what they need and I'll just deliver that. Outside my area of expertise.
Yeah, so I actually work in that area. So CMYK, if I do stuff for papers, they want.
But Phil, I think this is about really the purpose of this, to be honest, is you take a photo of a chart and you want to be able to deliver a digital version of that. Printing and the whole publishing, printmaking kind of print world is an ancillary one to the one we're talking about. And I think just staying focused on the value of what we're doing is being able to give clients both the paper chart that they saw and then deliver it a really good quality image that is a representation that they can choose to, print out. They use the high-res version to print out if they want to. In fact, last week, my charts that I took, and I'll just show the images again. When I did these charts, the client decided in the workshop that they would really like to be able to make postcards out of these little nuggets that I captured. So we've decided that I went and I took single images of these little nuggets, and they're going to print these out as postcards because they form a really good memory anchor. So in that case, it's quite small. The print job is going to be, reasonably unchallenging, but essentially it's just an extension of a good quality photo and a good quality cleanup of the chart that I did. So we're not, I think there's a whole side discussion we could have, but I don't want to jump into that if you don't mind.
Oh, no, it's fine. I just was asking a question to clear up, but that's fine.
Okay. How are you, Owen?
Yeah, good, thanks. And I've worked a bit with Photoshop, so I think I'm able to keep up with everything I saw. But yeah, I'll check out the recording for the start.
Yep, great. Did you have any questions from the chart work that you'd been doing?
No, I think you seem to be covering everything that I'd want to know.
And do you have a good way of taking good quality photos of your charts in the moment?
Yeah, I've got an iPhone. I think it's iPhone 6, so the camera should be good enough, I think. I guess we'll see when I try to convert them.
That's where I suggest you need the camera app and don't rely on your iPhone solely. If you can, you know, the camera app that I was talking about for iPhones, Camera Plus, is $4.49. So it's not a major expense, but it is so worth it for the value.
Okay.
So that's my suggestion, is don't rely on the camera in your phone. It needs to be something that needs to be lifted a bit in quality. Okay, so I can do, if you've got 10-15 minutes, I can do a little demo on stitching them together. Sorry, Carla, was that a question? Go ahead.
Just one question. I hear a lot of people talking about using a cam scanner on your telephone. Does that ring?
Oh.
Yeah. Do you hear me?
Yes, I did. You went to mute again accidentally. Cam scanner.
Yeah.
Yes, I have. I saw it recently on the Graphic Facilitation Facebook page. ScanScribe was a bit of software previously that we used. Cam Scanner, I'm interested to know what it is, because I think it's a bit like Jot Pro, but I'd probably need to go and do a little bit of research. It's not part of the setup that I use, and I used to use ScanScribe, which everybody loved, and it just had it, you know, technology moved past ScanScribe and nobody can use it anymore. I think it's completely fallen over, but I stopped using it a while ago before it fell over. And back then I used to go into Photoshop, crop out of Photoshop into ScanScribe and do that thing that it does, which is basically convert any photo to the equivalent of a whiteboard. And then I'd pull it out of ScanScribe and import it back into Photoshop and do my borders and do my logo. And so now, because I'm forced to, I just do the lot in Photoshop, and it is a lot quicker and easier. So if ScanScribe is the equivalent of kind of the Photoshop element, the Photoshop manipulation, then sure, if it's reasonably priced and you can access it, literally all you need to do is figure out how you can crop and how you can adjust lighting, and then how you can delete bits you don't want. That's really the three things you need to do. I mean, me putting a border around it and putting my logo on, it's not essential. Not essential at all. So whatever software you get, make sure it does those three things.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
That's all right. You're welcome. There has been a lot of kind of software come and go over the years. So let me just, okay, so what was everyone's feelings? Give me a thumbs up if you'd like to see me do a stitch and splice of, yeah, okay, let me share my screen. Okay, so I showed you these three images, which was part of a chart, three parts to a single chart. So what I do is, first of all, I go in and I select the bit of this chart that I want to carry across to my master collated chart. So I do a copy, and then I go into File, New. I set up a blank file. Now, the trick with Photoshop, which is lovely, is it will give me the size of the area that I've cropped as the basis for my new file. Now, I know I want to splice three pieces together, so I want the same height, but I'm probably going to want a bigger width. So I just go in here, and I'll just, for argument's sake, I'll just make it 4,000. And then I'm going to paste this that I previously selected and just put it into the right-hand area. I'm going to give myself a couple more layers. Back into layer one, I'm going to do the, so I've done the crop. Now I want to enhance, adjust lighting, levels. I'm going to go in, and so you can see that I've pulled out a lot of the pinky yellowy color. but it's still a little bit grey down there. I don't like that. That was too much, so I'm just going to back up. And the other thing you can do, just to let you know, I'm going to accept that, is sometimes without messing it up too much, I've just done a selection with the wand. So it hasn't given me that rectangular marquee selection, it's given me a field. Now that means I've got some areas in that bottom left-hand corner which are a little bit on the grey side live. So I go back, I pick my white selector tool again, and that's probably too much. See how that goes to too white compared to the rest of the chart. So I'm gonna reset that. I'm gonna stop that selection and just go back in and do the adjust lighting one more time. That's not looking too bad now. Okay, so I'll accept that. Now, so that's number one of 3 pieces that I want to splice together. Let's go and grab the second piece. And again, I'm going to go in, I'm going to try and take a clean grab, copy that to my new canvas. And on layer 2, I'm going to save that. Now this becomes an interesting, can I say, challenge trick? What's the right word? You've got to get your eye in and try and size these perfectly if you can. I'm just matching up the pink lady image that I've got there in the middle of that chart. That's probably good enough. I'm going to keep that. Now while I'm live on this layer, which is the second bit that I've included, I'm going to go and do my lighting levels again. Okay, that's not too bad. So I've got 2 of my 3 pieces in. I'm going to go and resize the canvas because I'm going to run out of room. I'm going to make sure I'm in the center left position, and I'm going to increase this up to, say, 175. And I'm making a guess that this is going to be enough. So this is part 3 of, and I just quickly look, I go back and have a look at the canvas that I'm building, and you can see I've got the edge of that middle right-hand one, the metaphor. I'm just missing the edge of that box. So I want to make sure in the third piece that I get that edge when I crop. Okay, so select that, go to my canvas, go to layer 3, drop that in, go to enhance, adjust lighting levels, white, and then using this tool, so I'm going to need just to drop down its size a bit. And you can see that I've also run, still not big enough. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to make this 185. And now I will have plenty and I can crop the final image. Okay, so this layer here, just need to finish adjusting that lighting. I've just got a little bit of grey sneaking in here, which I don't like. That's good. And while being on this layer, I'm just going to delete this top corner so I can let that border from the layer below peep through. And I can do the same here. That's not going to work. Sorry, I'll take that back. And sometimes there's just a slight bit of just need to pivot it slightly sometimes, because the way that you've taken the photo just mightn't be exactly the same in all cases, just to make it stitch up. I'm getting very close. I can just play around with this. Then I would fill that background layer. I'm going to fill that with white. So I would muck around and just get that no bullshit therapy approach chart element working perfectly. And I might also take out this sticker of my logo, but you can see how I've stitched together 3 photographs to get a good quality image. And when we look at the image size, yeah, so that's about 30 odd meg. So it's a good big quality compared to the what would happen if I took it all in one photo. Does that make sense? I'm going to stop sharing and feel free to ask any questions. So back on it, doesn't matter whether you're taking a single photo or you're stitching it together. You've got to start with good quality image. You go in and you crop, you adjust the lighting so that you're taking out the paper as being even present, and you're then arranging it and saving it in a file size that's going to be useful for your client and for the use. So any questions, anything else? Is everyone happy? Everyone's got what they wanted? Okay, let me just quickly, I just want to do a sign off then. So we went through the quality of the image and the software that I use, and then we did 2 examples. We've done our questions. Thank you very much for joining me. And if you're interested, please, and you haven't already, please jump on to the website and join and get your 12 Great Icons ebook as a gift. Okay, good night, everyone.
Thanks, Michelle. Bye-bye.
Say, thanks, Eric. Bye for now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carla. Eric, there'll be a recording, so I'll talk to you. I'll send that.
Thank you. I had no questions from me because I came in late and I'm not allowed to ask questions about things when I wasn't here. So I look forward to the recording. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.